Welcome, everybody. If you're new, please let us know and welcome. So we'll get started in just a few minutes. So we've got Katie Bartz, who is our special guest teacher tonight, and is going to show us lots of cool embroidery stuff. Many of you know embroidery is not my specialty. So Katie and I wrote a book together. I haven't got the copy of it up here. Right here. Thank you. We wrote a book together many years ago. What is now? What, 17 years ago, Katie?
It seems like yesterday, but yes.
Yeah, I know, it does seem like yesterday, doesn't it? This is the book that Katie, this is not for sale. I would show in my class some of the techniques in here. But Katie did some groundbreaking embroideries in this book that people haven't seen before. She did some endless embroideries. She did some embroideries that made a 90-degree pivot. And she did some embroideries like embroidered buttons. And, you know, I think we were the first ones to do any of that stuff. I hadn't seen it before anyway.
Yep, we were.
Pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It was a really, it's a pretty cool book.
Well, you're an inspiration.
Ah, thanks.
Van says you look nice tonight.
Oh, I look nice tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I clean up not too bad.
Cool.
So folks, I am heading to Florida tomorrow to take care of my mom. So I'll be back on Sunday, but if you need to get a hold of me, you can call the office. I'm going to have the phone calls forwarded to my cell phone. For those of you who are webinar members, you probably got that newsletter from Ray with all the cool benefits that you're going to get this year with your membership. And that's pretty new. So that's pretty exciting, I think, right? So lots of cool stuff is happening. You're going to get some better discounts. A lot of you got the sneak preview to buy the new Alma bag, which is launching on Friday.
Cool.
And if you haven't seen it, this is the Alma bag.
She's a beaut.
Okay, and then does their discount end on Friday?
Thursday.
Yep. So if you're a member and you want to buy this, the special discount on your member email expires on Thursday, midnight and Thursday.
Yeah, it like switches over Friday to the regular price.
So it'll switch over to the regular price. So if you are a member and you wanted to buy that at the discounted price, you only have 2 more days to do that. So think about that. If you haven't joined up yet and you want to become a member, some of the benefits are you get the
early bird special,
20%
off,
which is 20% off on all of our new launches.
Yep.
You'll get free shipping on our
on your birthday
and on our big sales that we have, our Christmas sale, Christmas in July, Easter sales.
Yep. You get so we're gonna do a little Facebook Live every time we can for a launch, but even if we don't, all the members go into a drawing and one of the members will win the very first new item that we launch that month.
There you go.
So someone who is a member will win the first Alma pattern.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you are planning on coming to boot camp, what you pay for a membership will take it off your boot camp tuition. Just like getting the membership for free.
We're going to send out polls so that you can vote on things like embroidery designs we'll offer, or webinar
Topics.
Content. Yeah, topics, exactly. And just get you involved in choosing things. So lots of stuff.
And Debbie Poe sent me an email. I think we're going to do a webinar just on the Laura Star and the benefits of the Laura Star, because I know a lot of you bought the Laura Star when we were having some specials and like to know more about how the iron operates and have a lot of questions. So I have one of the representatives from Laura Star that's going to come do a program with us, a remote one. So that'll be really exciting. So, okay.
So real quick, just before we go past this, if you had gotten the Alma bag before, we have upgraded and updated the tutorial and the pattern. But if you bought it, we want you to have the latest one. So shoot me, which is ray@pamdamour.com, an email, or you can send one to Terry if that's who you're talking to before, and we'll make sure that you get the update with everybody else.
We'll send you a free digital file.
Yeah,
so the pattern really hasn't changed. It's the same pattern. It's the same directions. We just we're kicking it up a notch, making it look a little more professional and less homemade
and clearer. We're just trying to make things very easy to follow. We want it to tie into the tutorial so that you can follow along and Yeah.
Okay. If you're just joining us, folks, this isn't the webinar. We really haven't started yet. So let's get started. So thank you everyone for joining us. And let's welcome our guest teacher today, Katie Bartz, who's going to show some great stuff and has some great deals for us. And I'm so excited to see what she has. Take it away, Katie.
All right. Oh, gosh. Well, it just seems like I was just here, but you guys gave such a warm welcome. I just couldn't help but come back. And I do have some fun things to talk about tonight. One of the things is Inkscape, which we're going to go over. I'm going to show you some cool things on how to use that program to create your drawings for your embroidery or your cutting machines. And I also have a new pattern launch today, which is going to be just a special for you guys today. So we'll talk more about that a little bit later. I'll let Pam jump in later and have her help me with all the wonderful bundles that we're going to have for you today. But I have so much to cover, and I'm hoping, how much time do I have, Pam?
You have as much time as you want. Usually we go about an hour, but
About an hour. Okay. All right.
More, I don't think anyone's going to complain.
Okay, I may end up going a little more, and I also welcome questions. So I'll let Ray be in charge of if there's a question that pops up while I'm actually demoing something, that she can let me know and we can get that answered right away. I want this really to be fun and relaxing and a real learning experience. So I don't know what your experience is with Inkscape or drawing your own artwork for your projects, but I want to first show you how to go about getting the program because it is free. And if you have your notepads and pens and pencils ready, I'm hoping you'll take some notes. And again, write some questions down. I will give you my email address later if you want to contact me directly with questions. I am more than happy to respond to those. But Inkscape is what they call an open source program. And it is comparable to Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, as well as Corel Draw. And I've used Corel Draw for years and find that my experience with Corel Draw is great, but not everybody can afford Corel Draw. So I found Inkscape and found that it really does a lot of the same things. You just have to know how to do it. So Inkscape is available at inkscape.org. Most people would go to inkscape.com, but you don't want to download that version because that would have some viruses and things in it. So you want to stick with inkscape.org. You'll go to either your Windows or your Mac version. They have one version for both of those. If you go to Windows, then you can choose the 64-bit and 32-bit version. If you're not aware on your computer what version you have, if you have a 64-bit or 32-bit, it's really easy and quick to find out. All you need to do is go down to your Windows icon down below and you click on your settings. That's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to right click instead of left click. So if I right click, you will see an option for System. And when you go to System, after you right click on your Windows icon, right down here, it'll say System Type, and it will either say 64-bit or 32-bit. All right, and the reason you want to get the correct version is because you'll have better performance on your computer if you're using the right version for your application. All you need to do is follow the prompts. Just hit download, follow the prompts, and Inkscape will be on your system. Once Inkscape is on, you'll open it up and you will have a screen that will pop up. This is really what scares most people because they think, oh my gosh, what do all those buttons mean? And that's kind of why I'm here today, kind of to help you, give you a little bit of a walk, run start to orientate yourself, play around a little bit, and as we go forward in future webinars or even possible classes, you'll have a little experience under your belt. And if you've worked with other programs that are drawing, Corel, Illustrator, things like that, you're going to actually feel quite at ease with this application. All right, you'll get to choose what button options you have. If you want just a plain screen, a dark screen, a white screen, whatever, all that is pretty self-explanatory. But what I want to show you here today is some of the things that you're going to be able to do. So for example, layers. Layers are critical in either creating compositions for artwork, and we also know layers are extremely critical when we're working with embroideries, because we don't want something to stitch on a certain layer and be covered up by thread in another layer. So there's really a lot of similarities between embroidery and creating your artwork. I've always been, believe it or not, intimidated by digitizing software because I don't know really how to digitize, or I feel I don't know how to digitize, like the professionals that have been doing it for, 50, 60 years. I want something I can create, a beautiful design, put it on something that's customized, and be thrilled with it. And that's actually what's been happening now that I've been drawing my own artwork and using the application for creating embroideries that we'll just walk through a little bit later. When you work with layers, you have a layers tab, and at the top of the screen, there are several icons, and I want to point you here, and I've tried to enlarge my mouse, so hopefully you can see it good. But if we look here, there's these 3 stacks. Imagine this is your desktop, and you have a little box with tools in it, and you want to actually create something. All right, so all these are tools that you're going to use, and if you think about it, they're the same thing you would do and use if you were just using a cardboard box on your desk with a paper and pencil. If you can think of it as simple terms as that, you're going to be able to draw something in Inkscape. Right, and I encourage you to go back and look through the preview or the replay of this so you can actually practice a little bit more after this session is over. But layers give you the capability to put certain things on certain levels. So if I didn't have layers in my application, I would have a big jumbled mess of what is on my screen. It would be hard to keep track of what is where. But I'm able to turn certain layers off.
I don't know why it's supposed to be through my.
Are we okay out there? I'm hearing voices.
You're good.
We're
Someone
okay.
snuck through.
We're okay? Okay.
We're good.
So ultimately, this is where a lot of people want to get. They want to be able to draw artwork for embroidery, or they want to be able to draw patterns, but they don't know how using Inkscape. But if you have the basic skills or tools to be able to draw a circle, a square, a rectangle, triangle, and draw a line, that's all you need to do. And your mouse becomes your pencil. And whatever you would do with a pencil, you're going to be able to do with your mouse. All right, so this is ultimately where I would really like to be able to get you someday after we keep continuing to work together. Okay, so if you like that idea, go ahead and comment in the chat box with a thumbs up or a hooray or something so that I can see where we're going with that.
Hey, Katie, real quick, is this 1.1?
This is 1.1, so this is the latest version. You'll want to check on the website at least once a month or so because they do update the software. They don't give you notifications. The way you find out about it is going to the website and seeing if there is an update, and you will know because it will tell you right on the website. And then they give you directions on how to download and install the new update. All right, so as far as fundamentals go, so if we start really with a foundation in using this software, you're going to be able to take off a lot faster. So it took me a while to learn how to draw. I am not a commercial artist, okay? And if I can draw in Inkscape or Corel Draw, anybody can do it because I totally am not an artist. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm a computer programmer, and you will be hard to find a computer programmer that's an artist because we work in different parts of the brain, right? So I approach drawing as a little bit differently probably than an artist would. So I see things in squares and circles and triangles, and that's how I make my objects. Right, so let me see if I have a sample here.
Hey Katie, quick question. Is this an
Yes.
open source program?
Is it it's an open source program?
Yeah, is it? Did they make
Yes,
it?
it is.
Okay.
It is. Yep.
So real quick, anybody who's asking and kind of worried about like, is this free? It seems like there's a catch. Every once in a while, there's this beautiful moment in the world where they make an open source program, which means people can go in and update it and work on it together. It's very community based. There's a few amazing programs. Blender for 3D is one of them. And those are the opportunities that you can find programs for free that aren't like giving your computer bugs or there's not a catch. So that's why it's good to have these kind of webinars where we can share these resources because you're getting them from someone who's trusted and who knows it.
Absolutely. This has been out for years and years and years. I mean, this program has been out in about over 15 years, and it's been open, and I've seen it grow immensely by beautiful programmers in the background, and they have a very good board that administers what's going on. And to see this go from something that just used to draw squares and circles to now is actually competing against things like Illustrator and Corel, it has come a long way, and it's been very exciting to see. And it is safe. They do regulate the people that are actually uploading a program. They vet before they actually do it. So I'm very confident with this application. All right, and it gives you some exciting things because if this doesn't fulfill your needs, then at least you'll have the skills to go to another application that you might like, better. But I like the fact that it is free, all right, because it gives me a chance to teach artwork and skills for embroidery, even though I don't consider myself, a professional digitizer, even though I guess I am. But if I can draw what I want my artwork to be at the end or my embroidery to be at the end, I can so much easier create an embroidery once it's in what they consider encapsulated postscript, which is the cleanest artwork that you can possibly have for digitizing. This is not like a rastered application where it's like a JPEG or a bitmap, because you've heard of things being pixelized, or if you had a photograph and you blow it up really big, all you see are those little squares and dots. That's pixelization. But if I zoom in here, example, on this star, I'm zooming way in and I do not see any pixelization at all. Right? Everything in a vector-based application is based on mathematics, and mathematics are created with nodes. And the line is drawn from node to node. It's not a picture, little pixel, dot, 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 all the way down. It's like, go to point A, here's my map, here's point B, draw a line from point A to B, and there you have it. Right? So it's a lot less complicated, and you can blow it up to the size of a building, and there will be no pixelization, which is just absolutely wonderful, which makes it easier for us to resize our graphics for an embroidery later on, because everything is size perfect. When you digitize an embroidery design, you want to digitize it. I get so excited here when I teach. You have to digitize the design near or close to the actual size that you want to stitch it out at to get the best results. All right. So once we get back here at the basics, let me just start. At the basics, we have shapes, and those shapes are created on the toolbar on the left here. All right, we can create our rectangles and squares, our circles, our polygons and stars, and we have 3D images. We can create swirls. Those tools are what they call objects in this application. So anything I select on the screen, term-wise, is called an object. All right, and what that object becomes later, you can apply certain characteristics to it. These objects are actually layered on top of each other. So just pretend this was an embroidery program. I mean, you could stitch this out and you would know the blue would stitch out first, the aqua would stitch out next, the pink would stitch out next, and the green on top. All right, if we didn't stitch it out that way or create our embroidery design or digitize it that way, our embroidery design is going to be totally messed up. So I can think mentally in terms of graphics easier than I can in embroidery design. That's just how my mind thinks because of, I guess, my programming background. Right? But it makes it easy for me to explain, what's going on the screen. We have the capability in here to group things together or stack things in different order. So for example, if I wanted this green star to go to the bottom, because maybe that's what I really wanted to stitch first in my embroidery design, I'm going to introduce you to these buttons right here. And they're very graphic. The buttons are very helpful. And you can see when I put my mouse pointer over the buttons, it tells you exactly what those buttons are going to do. And the only way you're going to learn what these buttons are is to get into this application and play around a little bit. Right? So if I want to actually lower this green star to the very bottom, there's a button up here. It says lower selection to the bottom. I click on that and now it very quickly goes to the bottom. And that's the first thing that's going to stitch out in my embroidery design. That's the first thing I would choose to digitize. Right? And I can move these other objects around and it's going to stay on the bottom. Now that's important because maybe you had a person's head with a hat. You want their hat to be on top of their head. So knowing how to stack your graphics in order is going to help me. I know it helps me mentally create my embroidery better because I know that face has to be embroidered first and then the hat on top. And I can actually see that physically in this application. Right? So maybe I wanted to bring the blue up a level. There's a button here that says you can bring it up one step at a time. I want to bring this green star back up. I can go up one step at a time and bring it up. And can you, in your mind, almost feel and see that 3D depth as things are stacked on top of each other? Now I want to bring this pink star here all the way to the top. There's a button here that says raise the selection to the top. And it also gives you the shortcut key. If you press the home key on your keyboard, it would bring it directly to the top. All right? So those are just basic skills you need to know if you're going to be designing. Because if you want to design patterns, you want to design embroidery designs, you want to create fonts, certain parts of your graphics have to be on top of the other, even though it may not look like it. If I spread these all out, these don't look like they're on different levels, but they are. I'm sorry, my screen's a little slow because of the Zoom going on, so just bear with me as I move things around. But things like here look like they're all on the same level, but they're really actually on their own different levels. Now I can choose also not only to stack things in the order that I want, but I can group things together. And the reason you'd want to group things together is because maybe you want to make sure that they stick together, they stick out. You want to be able to move or size things together. And you can easily do that by grouping them together. So if I want to do whatever I'm going to do to these objects later on, for example, apply an outline to them, size them, change their color, whatever. If I have them in a group together, all those effects are going to be applied at the same time. And up here on the toolbar, we have a ungroup all and we have a group button. So whatever is selected is going to be affected. And the shortcut key, which I absolutely love and like, is you can see it says Control G. I'm just going to press Control G on my keyboard. So now when I click off of it, I click on it, you can see that those items are selected. Now it looks like the circle and the square are also selected, but if I move this down, only the 2 stars are moving because those are grouped together. All right. And I might want to, like I said, apply an outline to them or something. And I can do that by, if I hold my Shift key down and click, I should be able to add an outline. And there's a very faint one there, but I'll show you more about outlines later. Outlines are called strokes inside of Inkscape. So whenever you hear someone talk about, I want to increase the stroke, it's actually the outline of your object, right? So that's grouping. I can group these 2 together by holding my Shift key down. I can Shift click and Shift click. It selects multiple things. And again, Control G will group them together. Okay, any questions so far? How are we doing, Ray?
Doing good. Have you heard of Ink Stitch? Apparently it's an Inkscape extension for creating embroidery design.
I have, and I've used it. It needs a little work. People have done things in it. It's not as user-friendly yet, but if it grows like Inkscape has down the road, Ink Stitch is going to be a wonderful thing.
Which again, talking about that open source program, sometimes you need to be a little more patient. It takes a little longer for them to get things user friendly and iron out the wrinkles. But again, it's a free program, and a lot of these people are either donating time or it's just donation based. So
absolutely, and they always need testers. So if you're in the mood or you want to be able to do a test for them or whatever, you absolutely can. Just go out there and play with it. You'll probably learn more about digitizing at the root level, but I've tried it, and sometimes I don't have the patience to learn another piece of software. I'd rather focus my point and energy on the graphics at this point, because I know it gives me my quick results, right? So these are objects. And I can tell they're objects. I'm going to ungroup them if I just hit the ungroup button. And I can tell they're objects because when I click on this shape button, the shape button is the node's visibility button. Let's call it that in our secret code here. All right, it says edit paths by nodes. When I click on an object and I click on the nodes button, you can see if I zoom in here that there are 3 nodes on this particular object. For any application like an electronic cutter program or a digitizing program to work functionally or to make this a true encapsulated PostScript or vector file, this cannot be an object. It has to be, it has to be an object that has individual nodes. So this is the shape tool. Okay, it creates your rectangles and squares. It's got 3 dots, 2 squares, and 1 circular dot. And that has a special function. If I want to round the corners on this, maybe I'm designing a zipper tab in a pattern and I don't want to have my corners totally square, but in my pattern I'd rather have it rounded. I can actually grab that corner node, and when I gently pull on that node, it makes the square have rounded corners. right? But if I try to bring this into digitizing or cutting file program, it won't recognize this as an object, right? I have to convert this particular item to what they call path, to a path, which would give it 4 nodes on the object. Because right now, a true vector object, I'm able to add a node, and I'm able to pick the edges here and drag it and morph the design. Here I can't, because it's strictly a square tool, but I can change it to a vector vector object by going to path and then telling it to change the object to an actual vector path. So click on object to path. And when I do that, you can see the 3 nodes are gone now, and there are 8 nodes. Why is that important? Because now I can grab an individual node and I can change its characteristics individually. This is what's absolutely the power behind a vector program. Because if you have, let's say there's a piece of fabric you absolutely love, and there's an emblem on there that you would love to make an embroidery design of. If you have the capability to manipulate your nodes, you could scan that fabric in and draw that image a lot easier when you have these nodes that you can wrap around the image that's on your fabric. All right. And in the webinar, I showed a sample of that where I created an apron. On the bodice of the apron, I actually digitized the design that was in the fabric and added it to the apron, which was absolutely wonderful. Okay. So these nodes have tools and objects properties as well. When an application, let's say a digitizing program or an auto digitizing program, uses a vector object like this to create an embroidery from, it maps those stitches from the nodes. So if you can have an object with the least amount of nodes possible, your embroidery, believe it or not, is a lot cleaner and smoother. But if I have a lot of nodes on my image that are not necessary, and I'm just adding them here very, very quickly by double clicking. So let's say I wanted to actually bring this out right here and morph it even more. You can only do that if this is a path, not an object, and you have access to nodes. Right? And that's where a lot of people get confused. They say, well, I have no idea what nodes do, but nodes are the purpose and reason for embroidery designs, cut files, graphics, vinyl cutting, anything. All the graphics and images are created using nodes, and having access and knowing how to use those nodes is what's going to make you successful. Right? So even with a circle here, let me just demonstrate this very, very quickly. If I go to this circle and I click on it, there are 3 nodes here. Well, those nodes, it's not a path, it's a shape. This is a circle shape. And I can change the image from that, the characteristics of that particular object on the screen, but it is not something that I can embroider from. Control Z on your keyboard, in any Windows application is an undo feature. So I use Control Z all the time rather than going to the edit menu and pressing undo, which is Control Z. If you can learn to use your shortcut keys, you're going to be faster at processing your images. But how do I change this again to a path? I go to the path menu once I've selected it, and I say object to path. And when I do that, you can see it added a new node down here at the bottom. Now I can take this circle, because it's a path, I can make it any shape that I want. Okay, maybe I want something unique like this to embroider. All right. But you wouldn't be able to manipulate, massage that design unless you create it to a path first, and you can modify and move these nodes. All right. So that is basically grouping, stacking objects on top of the other, and being able to manipulate your designs individually. Now, what's nice about this is I'll show you a little bit later. So when I take this into the embroidery application I use, it uses the same features and functions as this art graphics program. So I can move nodes, I can edit stitches the exact same way that I'm doing here inside of Inkscape. And it just, to me, the light just switched on and I was able to start creating because now I could actually relate to something. Okay, I'm going to turn this level off. Now let's talk about rotation and duplicating. So here we got little Miss Mary here. She's getting ready to run her 3 miles for the day. And we want her to change direction. Well, on the toolbar across the top here, we have some really cool tools. We have the flip left and right, and we have the flip top and bottom. So just like you have this feature in your embroidery programs, we also have this here. So I can flip her back and forth so she looks like she has no idea which direction she's going. Why is that important? Because if I was drawing a pattern, maybe you only designed half of your pattern to begin with. Well, if you could duplicate that side, flip it, and then merge them together, you'd have a whole panel of a design pattern piece that you could use, right? So knowing how to flip, all right, and flip up and down vertically, okay, and then also horizontally, left and right. Those buttons are up here on the toolbar. Let's say I wanted to have 2 of these running around. You could go under, I think it's under Object. I don't even know where it is in the menu anymore because I use the shortcut key, which is, if I right click, there is a duplicate function here. And you can see that keyboard shortcut is Control D for duplicate. So I always use the Control D. So I just press Control D on my keyboard. And if I pick her up and drag her, sure enough, there's a duplicate. All right, and I can flip her left and right and continue on with my design. So Control D duplicates. I use that function a lot. Then if you want to rotate her, I know some of you have this in your embroidery applications. What happens when I click once and then I click again, the handles around the object give you the functions to rotate and to skew. So now I can rotate, right? And I can skew just like you can in your embroidery program. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. If I hold my Control key down, and this is what's unique, but one of those things that people don't know about, but it also works in your embroidery programs. If you hold your Control key down while you rotate, it will rotate in 15-degree increments, plus or minus, depending on what you set up in your settings of your program, which I will show you in a few minutes. This really comes in handy when you're like creating a flower with petals. How do you get them equally spaced around? Very easily. You use the rotate function, right? This, you see this on your embroidery designs and your programs. That is your center of rotation button, right? If I didn't want to rotate around her center, but I wanted to rotate around her toe, I will move that center of rotation down here. And as I rotate her, you will see it rotates around her toe now instead of around her belly button, right? So a lot of similarities, which brings your knowledge base and your level and your confidence already up, because a lot of you may already know how to do this in your embroidery program. And if you know how to do it in your embroidery program, you know how to do it here in Inkscape. other things that you are probably using and don't know is your align and distribute features. Right? I have in front of me 5 squares, and I want to quickly align them and center them. Well, on the toolbar or the properties window here on the left, on the right, there is a button here that says align and distribute. If you were sitting at your table and then say you're playing with a deck of cards and you wanted to stack up and line up these cards on your table, what would you do? Your instinct is going to say, well, I want to pick this card right here and I want to line up everything to this card. Right? So what you're going to do is you're going to choose your point of reference is basically what you're doing. So I want to line it up to this particular object. So if you select that and then you shift click and select everything else, all right, you can go over here and based on the pictures or the items, the properties here, you can center on the vertical axis, right? And it centered it on the very first one you picked. That was your point of reference. Control Z. Let's do that one again. Let's say I want to line it up to this square right here. So if that's the square I want it to line it up at, I click on shift click everything else, and I choose the center button. Everything lined up, but it didn't line up on that particular one because I have last selected here. All right. So when I select all of these and then I choose the very last one as the point of reference, now when I center it, it lines up on that object. And I like that feature because then I know the very last one I select is going to be that point of reference. There are other things here. A first selected page, maybe you want to center it on the page. You're going to have a lot of things to choose from. But let's say we want to center it up over here on this one. So if I select everything here else first, and then that one last, I center on it, it's centered at that point. Now the hard part. I want to take all of these items, but I want to space them out and center them equally. So if I move the very first object where I want the spacing to start, and I place the last one where I want it spaced to, everything in between is going to be equally spaced. So if I select everything, right, this is going to be the last one that was selected. I'm going to center everything on the vertical axis, and then down here, there are options for distributing your objects. So here I can make my vertical gaps equal. Very quickly, just like that, now you have your items spaced out equally to do whatever you want for your cutting machine, again, your embroidery design or whatever. A lot of us struggle with trying to line up with the grids on the left and right to get things lined up. But now we know we can just select and click shift. We can center everything quickly, and then we can space it out vertically or horizontally, whichever you choose. Let the computer do the work. We're a lot happier. Any questions so far?
You're doing good. Everyone's riveted.
All right. Okay. Well, and I'm showing you these basics and these fundamental foundations because later in just a few minutes, when I get here to rotation on circle and transparency, and I actually start making a design to digitize, all of these things I'm showing you right now are going to be used, important, and it'll make a lot more sense of why I'm trying to give you this foundation to begin with, because I really want you to get on here and play with it, right? So here underneath our path menu, okay, we have object to path. We change that, which converts it to an actual design that has nodes in it that I can manipulate. Stroke to path, that's the same thing, except now if I did stroke to path on this, the outline, which is the stroke, I could manipulate the stroke and put curves in it and whatever I want. Maybe I wanted to have text that went along like a wave. I mean, if I had a path that did that, I can put my text along that wavy path and create something beautiful. What we're going to talk about are these options right here. These are probably the most confusing parts of this program. And if you can follow me and understand me when I talk about this right now, you are a natural at creating your own graphics, digitizing, cutting files, anything vectorized, right? So I've put that menu right here so we can see exactly what it does. So I've drawn a circle and a square. If I want to join these together to make an object, so these two individual objects, I want to make one particular object. I have to select them both, all right? And it tells me to use the union function. So if I go to path, I go to union, now it's one object, and I can treat it like a, the keyhole that I generated or whatever that I wanted to make for my embroidery, right? But it took those objects, I pressed Control Z to undo that. It took a circle and a square to make that design. A lot of your designs you're going to be generating are made from circles, squares, rectangles, and triangles. And if you manipulate them, put them together, unionize them, join them together, you will actually make your own pictures. Right. The next thing we want to do, and I don't know if you noticed, but when I unionized these, I clicked on this one, and then I clicked on this one, and then I went to I went to path union. You notice how it turned green? It turned green because of the last object I selected. If I select this one first, then this one, it should hopefully turn pink. It didn't. It turned green. So why is that? I had to think about that one. It should have turned pink. I'll have to think about that one. Right now, the difference, this is really cool because I use this a lot when I'm drafting my pattern. So let's say we are making an apron, and in our apron, we have to cut out our armhole. All right. We can then create our rectangle, add our circle, and then when I select the other object and I go path, difference is like a cookie cutter. If you think of difference as a cookie cutter, now I have half of the sleeve cut out for my apron. Let me go back out here and remember I showed you how to duplicate just a second ago. Control D is duplicate. I can come over here. Now I'm going to take this object, click, and I'm going to go path, difference. Click here, go path, select that, path, difference. I now have a little apron pattern. All right, and it's just by using, again, circles and squares and trimming it away. I like to think of difference as my cookie cutter. All right, so whatever you place on top of the object is going to be cut away with like a cookie cutter. If I wanted to make this smaller, because I wanted a circle in something because I was going to put a snap or something and I needed to show a snap hole in my pattern, if I select the circle, I select the little pattern fabric piece behind it and I go path difference, I've now created the circle. So your difference is one you're going to use a lot in your designing, and that's just the cookie cutter. Intersection is another one that you might use a lot. If I use intersection, I shift click the second object. The intersection of these two objects where they meet should be what is left. So I'll go to path, intersection, and sure enough, that's what's left.
Hey, Katie, is there
Yes.
an undo limit in this program?
There, I so far I've hit like 60 and I haven't had any problems. So it goes back and back and back. Yep. Exclusion. If I select that again and click that, I'm ultimately going to try to get what's left here. What it should do is should keep everything else and exclude or leave out the center. Let's see if that's what it does. Path, exclusion. Sure enough. How you use these is unique and different. I would say I use union, difference, intersection, and I also use cut path. Combine and break apart. I don't use exclusion very often, but I do use these tools, so it's nice to know what they do. Division is really cool because maybe you really wanted to have this piece right here. And if I go to path division, what that will do then is it sliced it, and you could do a pattern blowout. So you could take that and say, this is the piece that was cut from the pattern. So you have a way of utilizing that. So that's that function. And the cut paths. Cut paths, if I click and I go to path, cut path, what it did is it used the strokes, the outlines. So it didn't cut the actual colored pieces. The cut path is going to actually separate and cut lines. So if you have to cut lines in your application, you would use that cut path feature. And very quickly, combine or break apart. If I, instead of rather than using the group function, I can use a path combine to group these together, manipulate them, and then path break apart to use them separately. You will use that feature a lot when you're using fonts because you don't want your cutters to cut out every individual letter. Let's say I'm making a name or trying to cut out happy birthday in vinyl. You wouldn't want the H to be cut out, the A to be cut out, the P to be cut out separate. You want the word happy to be cut out in one word. You have to use your combine or break apart features to make that work. All right, just like you would in your embroidery program, does the same thing here in your graphics program. All right, rotation. This is a fun one. Rotation on a circle and transparency. All right, I want to make a flower to embroider, and we're going to go through that process right now. So I want to create a flower. I want to have the petals perfectly spaced around each other, and I want to bring that into the digitizing program before we talk about the specials we're going to offer you today. How's that sound? All right, so to make a petal, there's lots of different ways you can make a petal. I mean, you can use what they call the Bezier tool here to draw your own petal. But I tell you what is a petal? A petal is part of a circle here and part of a circle here. So if I select a circle, and if I hold down my Control and Shift key, I'm going to go ahead and move that closed. It remembered that I separated it a little bit ago. I'm going to go back to a whole circle here. One more time. All right, I'm going to hold, if I hold Control and Shift at the same time, it draws a perfectly concentric circle from the center out. If I just hold my Control key, it just simply draws a circle from the edge out, concentrically perfect. All right. If I would like to create a petal, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this circle that I just created. And first one that tells me how to duplicate, no, I'm just kidding. I press Control D, and if I click and drag, I can create an intersection here, but I can't see that intersection. Underneath the fill and stroke here, there is the transparency feature This is a wonderful, wonderful tool. I love, love, love it. I can now actually see the actual petal that I want to create. Maybe I want it to have it a little bit longer. If I shift click, drag down, I can make that petal longer. Now, how would I get that intersection created? What you have to do is you go up to path, once they're both selected, and you say intersection. Now I have my petal. Right? And then I have to make my circle for the center of my flower. And I'm just going to hold control and click and drag, but I don't want it to be purple. I have to move my window here at the bottom so I can see my palette. I'm going to scroll over to the yellows and select a yellow. And I'll just go ahead and leave the red outline. Actually, if I shift click on the black, it will make it black. A shift click on the black creates a stroke. So whenever I hold my shift key down and click on the object, it creates an outline. If I just simply click on the color, it changes the fill. So that's kind of important to know. And then we learned earlier that we have to align. We can use the align tools in the align and distribute menu, which is also available right up here. It will pop that window open. I can center on the vertical line. I can hold my control key, click and drag to keep it in the straight line so it won't shift off. Now I need to activate my rotate tool because I want to rotate that petal around here and make more flowers. Well, rather than copying and pasting to make that petal go all the way around, I'm going to click again because I want my rotate. If I didn't move my rotate, you see how it's just going to rotate right there? I actually want it to rotate around the center of this circle. So I'm going to move that in the center of my circle. But how do I know if it's perfectly centered? You don't unless you turn on the Find Center of Rotation snapping tool, which lets me take this tool and it just automatically wants to snap. You can see, almost feel it on the screen. It will automatically want to snap to the center of that object. Then when I hold my control key, because if I hold my control key, remember, it will place itself at certain increments around that flower. Well, if I rotate it and press my control and then the space bar, it will actually copy and duplicate that rather than having to do copy paste. I just control space bar, control space bar, control space bar. I can go all the way around. If I didn't want them so close, I could space them out a certain number of clicks while I'm counting. So let's do that. So I'm going to control Z all the way back to the end here. And now I'm going to hold my control key down. I'm going to click 2 spaces and then hit my space bar. And we'll go 2 spaces. And I'm just holding control, space bar, control, drag, space bar, control, drag, space bar. And you can see how nice and even that flower is around here. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to path and I'm going to change that object to path, because if I do not do that, it's not going to recognize this when I bring it over to my embroidery software. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take this image. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go over to my artistic digitizer. And I'm going to create a new embroidery design. And I'm going to control V, paste that flower in here. And I'm going to center it in the hoop. So it's too big for the hoop. Well, guess what? Just like we did with the application in the graphics program, I can shift, click, and drag that flower to be the perfect size. It's centered in the hoop. If right now you can see the whole flower is selected, if I right click on it, I can ungroup this flower, and now I can select and digitize this particular flower very, very quickly. I'm going to leave the flowers here with the step design. I'm going to go ahead and change. I don't know if it's going to be too big for a satin stitch in the center, but at least we can change that to a center satin stitch. And then the outlines, which are black, I'm going to change the color of those. So I'm going to select by color. And then I'm going to right click down here and I'm going to edit color. I need to move you out of the way here. And maybe I want a darker red around the outside. So now I have the outline red, and then the outline, I want to have a nice triple stitch. I am a huge fan of a triple stitch. And if I go to the outline, I'm going to tell it I want a running stitch. I would like to have it a triple stitch, and I would like a nice shorter stitch, 2.2. And if I scroll in here really close, you can see a nice thick stitch here. And if I go to the slow redraw feature, I can kind of see how this is going to stitch out. So it's got the underlay. Voila, we have an embroidery design. All right, it looks good on the screen. What does that mean? That means if it looks good on the screen, it's going to stitch out 10 times better. So they always turn out really, really nice. Okay. So let's see, what else do I need to share with you? Let me go back to Inkscape.
And this is digitizer, correct? Or what?
It's Genomi's artistic digitizer. All right. The thing I like about it is it will take this SVG file that I have here, automatically bring it in and create the stitches for you. It's not a digitizing program. It's actually a vector conversion program. So it will take your artwork, treat it as a vector. So if I go back to this design really quickly, anything I do here on this design is just like it was working in Inkscape, because I can click on this design and I can edit the nodes. Remember we talked about having nodes? These also have nodes. And here I'm not modifying the digitized stitches. I'm actually modifying the vector. The actual artwork is what I'm changing. So whatever you could do in Inkscape, you can do in this particular software, right? So you can add more nodes, you can delete nodes, and we'll talk, and at another time what a cusp node is, because a cusp node actually has a joint in it and a bend. So if you needed to create something around a point, that's what a cusp node is. This is a smooth node, so it just stays smooth. But what's really cool is if you can work and design your artwork in a graphics program, that's all that artistic digitizer is. It's a graphics program that converts your vector file you created into stitches. And everything here has properties. So if I click on this petal and I go here to the fill properties, anything here can be changed. I can change the design inside of that fill. So these are the characteristics or properties you want to put to that particular program, right? You can create, you all know about, knockdown stitches and everything on your towels now. Well, they have this net fill feature, which you can modify and change your cell size to bigger or smaller so you can create a knockdown stitch and put your embroidery on top of it if you're going to be embroidering on, thick terry towels. There's just everything that you click on has a property, and you just need to know what those properties are. You can change the density. Maybe I don't want it to be so dense. I can lighten it up, and you can see this design here is a lot thinner. or maybe I want to have it thicker and I can really apply the stitches to it with the proper underlay. So this is why I like digitizing now, because it creates the capability to use your artwork and work with artwork. And when you convert it and work it in an embroidery program, it's like working with your artwork all over again, because that's all it really is. And the stitches are automatically converted. So it's not really an auto digitizer, because that actually works a little bit differently than this. You actually have to have your file, and then you bring it in and you tell it to auto digitize. You notice when I had it on my screen, it immediately brought it in. It was already converted. It converted those vectors into a digitizing program. So imagine what you can do with fonts, and other images that you create very, very quickly. You can have your embroidery design using Inkscape. With this application, you could do your drawing in this application if you want, because they do have the shaping tools. I can draw and create shapes and rectangles here. As soon as I click and drag, there's an object and automatically applied stitches to it. All right, so you don't have to be a digitizer to create beautiful designs. You just have to create artwork, and the stitches are automatically converted. All right, so it's totally different than an auto digitizing program. All right.
On that note, we're getting a lot of questions that are slightly different, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer this.
Okay.
About like what other software will it work with, what like bringing their version 8 or 9, and instead of getting into the complicated, we tell you every single thing it works with, what is the best way for people to see where this will work with, so they can check that their machines will be able to use it?
This Inkscape, which was really my focus tonight, Inkscape is the graphics program. It creates an encapsulated PostScript, an SVG, scalable graphics vector file that will read and be able to be brought into any embroidery software. Okay? So if you create your artwork in Inkscape and you bring it into, for example, I also use the Viking software. I can import this graphic into the Viking Premiere software or Sonnet software, and it will also create a digitized image. So it's not that it's specific to a program. It's just you're creating something here, a piece of artwork that will work with any embroidery software. And then you have to create the stitches. So you have to have the digitizing portion in your software to make this work. And the reason it will work better is because this file will accept stitches better. Right? Now, with using Artistic Digitizer, the Janome software, this software, if you go under File and you say Save As, it will show you all the different formats that those files can be saved as. All right, but that's based on the hoop that I have selected. So it will save it as a Viking VIP file, a VP3 file. Right here, it will save it as an EXP Artista file for Bernina. It will save a DST for commercial, but that's because I have the hoop selected for my machine was a Viking hoop. If I go in here and I choose a different hoop for a different brand, this software then will convert that software to that machine that you're using. So, but any embroidery software will do that. Okay. It's just I find this one to be really easy and it's quick because I have to produce a lot of things quickly. It's one way for me to create it really quickly. The focus and the main point of this is having the artwork clean, not as a JPEG, or a BMP file, but as a vector graphic, because then underneath and we'll be done here in just a second. So bear with me. If I go back to Inkscape, under Inkscape, if I go File, Save As, it saves it, that file as an SVG file. And I like to use plain SVG, okay, scalable vector graphic, which is like an EPS type file. This will read directly into your electronic cutters. So if you have a Brother cutter, Silhouette cutter, Scan and Cut, any of those, the SVG file is there and you can open it up in the software and it will create that cut file. Why is that important? I like it because if I'm going to create an applique for this flower, I can go in and cut all these petals precisely with my electronic cutter. And then on my sewing machine, when I create the applique for it, I can, after it places the placement stitch, I can stitch my petal down, just set it on there, and it will stitch down that petal quickly and perfectly. Okay. So everything starts, if you want success, starting with perfect software and perfect graphic, all right, that's going to get your perfect end result. Did that sort of answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. So on to specials. So we have some specials tonight. So let me go ahead and pull up those specials. We have a new pattern launched today. It's called the Catch-All Pouch. So this is the pouch. And again, I wanted to show this to you because this graphic was created in Inkscape. All right. And this graphic of the pattern was also created in Inkscape. So it's not just for embroidery. It's not just for cutting machines. It's at a commercial graphic level piece of software. And if you order that pattern tonight, because tonight's the only night that this is on special, and we'll talk about that in a second, I will email you this Sewing is My Superpower embroidery design. Now, I've created a couple samples here. So this is the catch-all pouch. And you can see on the fabric, there's some, if I hold it here steady enough, there's the design of a little flower. I was able to recreate that flower in Inkscape and add it to the catch-all pouch. And if I open this up, you can see it opens really wide. It will hold a lot of stuff. And it only uses 4 pattern pieces. It's very simple and quick to put together. And there are 2 sizes in the pattern. There's the large and the small. This one, I didn't have to use any lining, and I used the mesh. I love Home Depot and their pet screening. And I make a lot of bags out of this pet screening mesh. And I love the black because it really makes the colors pop. So that's the small and the large. So that special is available regularly $12. And we're going to give you 25% off tonight on all the patterns that you purchase. And that helps support me. I mean, that helps me make time to go ahead and be able to come back and teach you more. And I know we all so appreciate that, right? The other specials we have tonight are the Pack It In series. So you'll get the large duffel bag pattern, the toolbox, and the project bags. Again, you can see the pet screening here that I use in it. It's just absolutely wonderful. I love the feel of it. These are regularly
Katie, they're asking if they're digital patterns. And so, yes, these are digital patterns. If you cannot do a digital pattern, we can do a CD pattern, but it's going to cost you extra.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're all digital. And I wanted to show you the little toolbox in here. What's unique about this toolbox is it's a solid bottom. Okay, it's a hard bottom. Your bottom of your toolbox is not going to sag once you fill it up with stuff, and it has that unique frame inside so that your top will stay open.
And we all want a hard bottom, don't we?
We all want a hard bottom. You said that once before when I was at a sewing expo, Pam, and you just cracked me up. We all wanted a hard bottom.
So folks, and Katie, do you have one more special, right? You want to share with
I do.
us?
I have one more special. It is my baby, all things baby package. So we have fill designs, embroidery designs of boys and girls. We have the applique designs. This is another unique design. It's sold separately on my website, but we're going to bundle them all together here to give you the best price we can. This is great for like on the back of a quilt. They're about 2 inches tall. So it's a really small design. It's great to add to a quilt label. And then this one, this is the feet, but these are a lot bigger. You can actually embroider someone's name in the feet. Rather than using it, you will get the tote bag that goes with it, going to see grandma bag with the embroidery. But a lot of people use these feet to put on beach towels or on hooded baby towels with the baby name in the feet, which has been really, really cute. But that's unique. So that's another different special, and Pam has the prices on those and where to get those for you. But I just wanted to take a moment before I sign off here and give it back to Pam. And thank you so much for letting me share a little bit of my knowledge with the graphics, how I go about the process of creating embroidery designs, cutting designs, electronic cutting designs. And it's easier for me mentally because it's actual graphic. It's something I could, sketch out on paper, but I can do it in Inkscape just as easy now that I have these tools. And again, thank you for having me. I look forward to coming back, doing another level. If there's an interest in a class, we'll set up a class session. Oh, were they? So what I would love to do, and if we can do this, we'll have Pam host it again. She's the best hostess in the world. Get together, have a class where you actually have Inkscape on your computers, and you're actually generating and doing what I'm doing on the screen. Yeah. So that you're successful, and that's all I can say.
Just let us know, and we'll talk to Katie, and we'll try to schedule something. Probably like on a weekend would probably be the best thing, like on a Saturday or something. Is that possible, Katie?
It's for me. Yep. I'm here for you guys. So
here's the thing, ladies. We're kind of changing how we're doing things. I guess you've kind of noticed that by our newsletters and stuff. So what we're doing here is for the specials, you're going to have to have a password to get in there. So if you just go to the website and go to the homepage and go to the specials, you'll see Katie's picture. If you click on that, it'll tell you that you need a password. The password is, and I think it's case sensitive, I'm not sure, but this is all uppercase. Ray, if you want to type this in, WSKB201. That's the password. And what it is, the specials are the pack it in, which is all those patterns, the toolbox, the duffel, and those project bags, all of those patterns together. They retail for $36. So the special is $27. It's a digital pattern. So there's no shipping. If you want the CD, okay, this is not on our website, so you just need to send us a separate email. It's $10 extra, and Katie will send you a CD, and we'll send that to her. But just email us and tell us you want the CD. Send the email to Ray at pamdamour.com instead of Terry, because Terry's got enough on her plate, and
we're looking for it.
And Terry's gonna go, what? Because she doesn't
send it to me anyway.
She doesn't know. She's gonna send it to Ray anyway. So the catch-all clutch, the brand new pattern, and you guys are the first ones to see it. That is a $12 pattern. You can have it for $9. If you order before tomorrow morning, before Terry comes in, you'll get a free embroidery design that says "Sewing is my superpower." So that's $9 for that. And then All Things Baby, isn't that a cute collection? So All Things Baby, including the tote bag, the pattern for the tote bag saying going to grandma's, that's a $28 package, and because you get the embroidery designs. And Katie, those are multi-formatted, I assume, right?
They're multi-formatted. Yep. And they'll include the cut files for the applique, and just everything you absolutely need at your fingertips.
Okay. So that's normally $28. So your cost on that is $21. Again, if you need a CD for any of these, it's going to be $10 extra. if you want to, you can place your order on the website, but then just send an email to Ray saying, I want the CD, and give her your phone number so she can call and get your credit card numbers, because we don't know what that is, and we'll just process the extra $10. Okay. So just make sure we do it that way. So
And this is through our website.
through our website at pamdamour.com. Yeah. Okay. So if you go to pamdamour.com, go down, scroll down the bottom of the front page, the home page. Let me hear. You see, it says, let me go in there and I will tell you what it says. I think it says specials.
Yeah.
If you go down, scroll down to the bottom box where it says video clips and webinar specials. If you click on webinar specials, you will see the Katie Bartz special. Katie, you need a better picture here. That I don't like that picture of you.
That's a few years older.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My old glasses.
And if you haven't signed up for a membership yet and you think you would like a membership, there's a tab right next to it that has the membership information. So if you're interested in a membership, again, we're going to give you discounts throughout the years. You're going to get sneak peeks on products. You're going to be entered in drawings.
Watch this later.
You get to watch this later because we're recording it and we'll send out the recording. So if you miss a webinar, you can always watch the recording, because unlike last week when I was by myself and I forgot to record, and I'm sorry, but it was all stuff most of you had seen before anyway, so that's okay.
Question: how do they get the hard bottom and the metal frame?
The metal frame they can order from my website, and the hard bottom is something secret they probably already have at home.
They can buy the pattern and find out, right?
Yeah. I have a hard bottom.
And the prices are listed on the website.
And the prices are listed on the website, yes. So you'll get a 25% discount on any of
I
those.
just sent you a message. It literally and it says it up top.
Okay, let me give you that code again so you have it, that access code, in case you missed it. It is W as in water, S as in Sam, K as in kilo, B as in boy, 201.
And it's in the chat.
That is the password. Okay, and it's in the chat. So Katie, thank you so much.
You're welcome, and thank you. And I wanted to add that because someone may have had some questions. So what if some embroidery software does not accept SVG files? Your Inkscape will have other options for a PostScript type files so that they can import into their other software.
Good
So it's just,
question.
I haven't found anything yet that it doesn't work in or can't make it work.
Can I ask why you picked Janome? Was it because for ease of operation, or why did you choose Janome?
Ease of operation, I have been using the Drawings software for many years, which is a company out of Greece, and they have partnered with Janome. So I was already using that software and Viking software and some Bernina software. So it's just something that not everyone knows how to digitize. And because I know it's not really a digitizing program, it's a vector conversion program. If you can think on terms of graphics, it just makes so much things a lot more easier.
So maybe I could do it?
You could do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Because like I said, I'm not an artist, but you can make it, you can make it work because it acts like a graphics program. It's not a digitizing program.
So two things. One, what is your website, Katie?
Oh,
it's
my
right
website.
behind her.
There we go.
SewingScene.
There we go.
Check out the other things that she has on her site. Absolutely go and check it out and show her some support. And this, what we've just listed on our website is going to be up for 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks from tonight to go and get the products we just described using that password on the pamdamour.com website.
Yeah.
Yeah, except the catch-all pouch. That's just
Till tomorrow
today,
morning.
tonight,
Yes.
till tomorrow morning. Yes. Yep. All right. Thank you so much. I had
Thank you.
fun. Oh, it was good to
Love you,
connect. And
sweetie.
if you have any questions, you can always catch me on email. Reach out to Pam. She'll know how to get in touch with me as well.
Bye,
All right.
sweetie.
Thank you so much. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, folks. You all have a good night. I think Katie did an awesome job. And thank you for sticking with us. We had a nice group tonight. So we're going to send out the recording. If you're watching the recording, you have until the 15th of February to get your get your orders in for the specials, okay? Because that's 2 weeks from tonight. So, and if you have any questions, you know how to reach us. So I'm Pam Damour, the Decorating Diva, and thank you for joining us. And anything you didn't want to add, Ray?
No,
No, she's tired.
I'm tired.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.